Hey guys, it's Matt here, just doing a quick little rant with you guys, for you guys, to you guys, just for you guys, only for you guys. If there's someone that is not you guys, that is in the room with you, tell them to please leave, because they are not, this is not for them, it's for you guys exclusively. Where am I even going with this? The point is that I'm here to talk to you guys about eBay scammers that are trying to scam you on NES Classic Editions. Now, the thing about the NES Classic Edition is, before we get, obviously, we're going to get it out of the way. I heard the news. All of you guys have heard the news. If you haven't heard the news, then, well, this is going to be a shock to you. Nintendo released a press statement, not only saying that they will be releasing more Super Nintendo classics, I believe, in stores, probably to try to get rid of people trying to scalp them online, because it's obviously a lot easier to scalp something online than it is to go into a store and buy it. There's no, bidding programs and stuff and sniping programs to use in a store. Unless you just hire a person to do it for you, I guess. But not only that, Nintendo said that they are rolling out more NES Classic Editions in 2018. So let's hit the music, guys! I've learned that we do not have money in the budget to afford music. But that's okay, because I can still talk to you, right? We have the budget. Okay, we have the budget to talk to you. Great. I can still talk to you guys about the scams that are going on in eBay right now. Now, the reason why I want to talk to you guys about these scams is because, and I want to differentiate something, by the way. There are people that are selling fake NES Classic Editions, and there are people that are selling what they claim are real NES Classic Editions, but they're not. So the reason why I want to differentiate between the two, the reason why is because the NES Classic Editions that are knockoffs that are made in China, knockoffs, and the reason why I use quotes is because the patent on the NES has expired for so long that you could essentially, I'm not too sure if you can make one that looks exactly the same as the NES, but you can do so much when it comes to cloning consoles that while it is illegal that they're including ROMs on there, on these Chinese editions of the NES, or the Chinese editions, these Chinese clones or knockoffs, they're not Chinese editions because they're not officially licensed, versions of the NES Classic Edition, you're allowed to do that, minus the ROMs. The ROMs are the illegal part. But other than the ROMs, those are allowed to exist. The problem is when you see eBay sellers like this, and when you look at these sellers, they say that, oh, it's the real thing, don't you worry. They don't mention anywhere that it can be a clone system. But then they list that they're shipping from China. And there's nothing wrong with China. I'm not trying to sit here and say, well, if it's from China, clearly it's bootleg. Because I do think that that is a very awkward statement to make, and I'm not the biggest fan of blanket statements like that. The reason why I'm saying this, though, is the fact, well, it's two things. First off, when you look at the date for the shipping, the fact that it's so large, yes, it's coming in from China, so it might take a long time to get to you. But if you get it by November, it's going to be a bit hard to open up an eBay case if you've been fooled, like if you've been tricked. So, because I'm not too sure about the eBay policies, but from what I remember reading, it should be within the 30 days of the purchase. But if you end up getting it later than that, that's not good. So you could probably still be able to talk to PayPal about it, but it still isn't the best to be caught up in that situation anyway. So the reason why, and another thing too, by the way, even if it is completely 100% legit, I would, and it was a Chinese version of the system, I would imagine that would be a different region. I imagine that would not work here even if it was 100% legitimate. So even then you have to think about that too, like how many people in China are getting legitimate NES Classic Editions? And then, by the way, and this is the biggest issue, selling them at that low price. Even with the announcement of the NES Classic Edition coming back, we don't even know what price it's coming back at, but let's pretend it's coming back at $60. If it's coming back at $60, then why would you sell it for less than that? We're not talking about bids. We're talking about buy it nows that are under $60. Come on. Come on. But again, let's look at sellers like this. When you look at a seller like this, you can easily tell by the pictures itself, even if they don't mention in the title, which they should, but even if they don't mention in the title or in the description, that this is not right. You're not in Kansas anymore. You're getting an entertainment system or a cool baby or, whatever these different brands are that are branding themselves on versions of the NES Classic Edition. You are not getting an original NES Classic Edition. And you know what? That's okay for some people. Some people want to pay $30, $60, even with the NES Classic Edition coming out. Some people are intrigued about the differences between that version and the knockoff consoles or the reproduction. You won't call them. Actually, you could technically call them reproduction. But the differences between this version and the other Chinese consoles. And, some of them, by the way, another thing, too, that is a huge issue, some of the consoles work just fine. They're essentially, some of the knockoffs, they're essentially a copy of the European version, of the PAL version, which is actually why if you buy an NES Classic Edition and it's bootleg, and hopefully you know it's bootleg, but if you don't, and then you see that there's European games on there and it works just fine on your system, and if you keep the menu going on for a long time without touching it, the music starts to mess up. You obviously, again, have a clone system, like a fake. And more importantly, you'll notice that if you didn't pay $300 for it, if you didn't pay more than $60 or more than $100, you actually have a fully functioning system. I've heard that the games are a little bit faster, but the games work just fine regardless. So, from what I've heard. So, you're not going to have a problem there. The issue is that there are some systems, especially some that say 501, that aren't modded normal NES Classic Editions with more games in it. Even that, I feel a little weird about it. I'm happy now that Nintendo's releasing more NES Classic Editions, but I feel weird about modding all the ones that normally exist, or that, before they were releasing new ones, because I wanted to just have at least one that was preserved with all the original hardware intact, no modding whatsoever. And when I looked at the fact that it was a limited release, it kind of felt awkward. I was a little worried about there not ever being one that wasn't modded, which I know just sounds silly, but it's not like they made, it's not like they made 10 million or more of these. They didn't make as many as we would like. That I think we can all agree on. So these 501 consoles, the reason why I'm upset about these is because they do not have the nice fancy menus. They basically just have a black screen with a list of ROMs, like you would get in any flash cart or in any plug-and-play Chinese system, any other kind of clone console. So for me, it's really frustrating that someone would pay, $80 or more just to get what is essentially a cheap flash cart. That, by the way, doesn't have HDMI. I'm pretty sure that all of the clones don't have HDMI, although I believe the one that I talked about that had the menus actually has a really nice HDMI in it. But I'm pretty sure that almost none of these NES Classic Edition clones have HDMI in it, which then means that you're just buying a clone console. And by that I mean you can buy any clone console. Yes, I believe many, if not all of them, only play with the original NES cartridges. But at that point, and I hate to be one of those people, because some of you guys, I love you guys, but some of you guys push it a bit too hard, you could just get a Raspberry Pi. I'm not saying you should put illegal ROMs on there. I'm just saying that if you're going to buy an NES case, essentially, like a shell, that just has a bunch of ROMs in there, which I know some are saying, but that's just the NES Classic Edition. Yeah, but it was made with care. I mean, come on, and the HDMI in there, and the fact that you could mod it if you wanted to, it was pretty cool. Sadly, I don't have one, but it was pretty cool. But depending on how these clone consoles look, and again, look, if you want to buy that, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just trying to call out some of these sellers that are trying to sit back and say, well, it's the original console. And the fact that they're either remaking boxes, or if you've been looking for an NES Classic Edition like I have, which is actually a lot harder than I really should be. But I've been looking for one really hard, and I've noticed that some stock photos are even taken. Some Let's Play stock photos, or at least the YouTube stock photos that are unboxings, have been taken and used to promote these fake NES Classic Editions on eBay. And it is just completely mind-blowing that, first off, eBay would even allow this to happen, because, and I know some people would say, oh, but there's repros on there, and oh, there's this, and there's this, and there's repro labels, and all this other stuff, but it's in my opinion, a bit different to have all of those labels on there, and, the repro stuff, that I'm not saying is right, I'm just saying it's a bit different, it's a much different, murkier kind of gray territory with those, versus using stock photos taken from other eBay sellers and saying that it's a brand new system when it says that it's coming in from China, which, I'm sorry, I don't know if maybe there's people in China that just bought 300 of them themselves and we're just waiting it out and are selling them now. But again, they're selling them for under 60. I'm going to go with fake on that one. Alright guys, so that about wraps up this video. Now again, if you want to buy a clone console, look, I'm not a Clone NES Classic Edition or clone any console. I am not going to get on your back for that. Hell, we have a show coming to the channel called Clone Corner, where I look at different clone systems. So I am not official clone systems and unofficial. So I'm not sitting here saying, well, you can't, get these clone consoles. That's terrible. No. You can do whatever you want. It's just these eBay sellers that aren't telling you, and without doing your research. And look, I know some of you guys will say, oh, but you have to do your research, and if you don't do your research, then you get what you deserve. Well, I don't believe that. I believe that, if you don't do your research and you get conned, that's obviously not good for you, duh. But more importantly, at least the way eBay's rules look, it's a lot harder to try and get that money back. And even if you get your money back, then they might tell you, even though you say, this is fake, they'll say, well, send it back to the person who sent it to you. As if it's a defective product and not a fake product that you feel as if you send it back to them, they can just do the same thing over and over and over again. Which to me is completely asinine, but still, looking at eBay's policies, if they don't let you destroy the item and that you have to send it back no matter what, even if it's a counterfeit, then you might as well just not buy the product at all. Unless, of course, again, you want to buy it for 30 bucks, alright? But there's some people that are trying to sell these fake things for more than 30 bucks. That's why I've been focusing on the less than to try to, these $30 ones, $40 ones, $20 ones, trying to lure you in with consoles that are probably made for like $1. En masse, like 1,000 of them. But you may even have some people that are trying to make fake boxes or buy boxes that I've seen for $50 and then put other, fake consoles into them and then taking very, I'll say, careful pictures to not show you how the Nintendo Entertainment System logo looks on the front. And all of a sudden, you end up spending hundreds of dollars on a system that is not the one you wanted and really doesn't look like the one you wanted. And look, if you're trying to get this for your kid and you spend $300 and it's not a real system, but your kid still loves it, well, you know what? Then they love it. But you just paid someone who is not only a scalper, but is now selling you an illegal product. Even before you knew that there were NES Classic Editions coming out. That still was a really awkward thing to... Alright guys, so thank you for watching the video, and see ya. Actually, wait, no, remember to subscribe, because if you don't subscribe, I'll be scalped. Like, someone will sell me for way over my asking price. Do I even have... Should I put me up on our eBay? Click all these buttons and videos all around me. Maybe some of them are on my face. Ooh, I don't know. But you must do it, because if you don't, things will happen. Do it. Please. Please.